Welcome to Podcrushed. My co-hosts are gone.
It's finally
I have them no longer. I just realized, you know what? I didn't need them. Moreover, they don't need me. They don't need me.
Actually, we really do.
Yeah. First, one of those two things is true.
In which way? No. You know, I did. What did I interviewed somebody recently. Oh yeah. So I interviewed a very talented artist named Arouge, a friend of mine, really a friend of Domino's, who's become a friend of mine. Arouge Aftab, really, really talented Pakistani singer. Well, she's, I guess, Pakistani American, and she's categorized in world music. But we did we kind of interviewed each other a little bit, but it was for promotion for her record.
Mm.
And
you were thinking, I miss Nava and Sophie so much.
They would have added so much to this.
I wish that I had a bio doc,
a beat sheet.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking man, I need a prep doc. I need a prep doc so bad. My schedule and drive in was just so crammed, but it was really a nice time. Anywho, so welcome to Podcrushed. I'm Penn Badgley. These are my co-hosts, Nava Kaplan and Sophie Ansari.
Hello, hello.
Welcome.
We have a host episode today. Are we even calling these AMAs anymore? Probably not.
I don't know.
It kind of is an AMA, but it's themed.
Yeah, I have to tell you guys, last time we recorded this, I asked anyone who really enjoys these episodes and wants more of them to comment on our YouTube and tell us, because I'm always trying to get more host episodes and you guys are always cramping my style.
Yeah.
And there were so many comments. We love these. Please bring them back. We want more.
So here we are.
Are you sure that was the tone and inflection?
Yeah, just a flat.
Yeah, what if it was like, we love these. Bring them back, please. More.
We love these.
Well, today we're going to kick off our host episodes with the theme of love.
Aww.
So we asked you guys to send us some questions, and we're going to work our way through some of them. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to all of them, but as always, we're thankful for you guys sharing.
I wanted to start with a very fun one.
Let's
and
do
should
it.
be quick and easy. Penn, did you hear that?
I was like, oh, that's just setting him up for failure. Sophie,
You know what? I'm going to try. I'm going to try today. I'm going to try.
Okay.
I'm going to try.
First question, favorite romance movie?
Titanic, easy. Next. Let's move on.
Oh, why Titanic?
You know, quick and easy.
Quick and easy.
This
Quick and
done.
easy. Nava, favorite?
No, I'm not. I need time to think about it, actually.
Okay.
Okay, no, I have an answer. Romeo plus Juliet. That one was just like really impactful when I saw it.
Which one is that one?
That's Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes.
Are you the only person? Is it really Romeo plus Juliet?
Yeah, it's Romeo plus Juliet. That's the Baz Luhrmann version.
You've heard somebody else say that.
I mean, people might say Romeo and Juliet, but that's how I was distinguishing which one, because he framed it as Romeo plus Juliet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, please keep it in the DiCaprio milieu, s'il vous plaît.
No, I'm
The
going to
Revenant.
go Dermot Mulroney. Is that the person who's in this movie?
Or is it Dylan McDermott?
My best friend's wedding.
Dermot Mulroney.
Yeah.
Mulroney.
Do you love him
We should
too?
get them both on the podcast.
That's what we should.
I
That's a great movie.
love that movie, and I watched it countless times throughout my childhood. Such a good one.
That's really good. Okay, this is not quite as quick, but I thought it was a sweet one. Can you experience true love in high school or middle school? I know Penn is going to say, what is true love? So let's start
You
with
have me
what
all
is true
wrong
love. Okay.
All wrong. All wrong. Do you want to hear about Titanic or not? No, okay, let's do middle school.
Yeah, can you experience true love
love
in high school or middle school?
That's a great question.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Depends on your maturity, I guess, but sure, why not?
Maybe the truest love, maybe
Yeah.
before your mind is like completely distorted on what it all means and there's a lot of fear. Maybe it's more pure.
Should you commit to the person you truly love in middle school or high school forever? I mean, maybe.
I don't see why not.
Is this advice you would give your 14-year-old? Just out of curiosity.
15 now, 15.
15-year-old.
No, definitely not. No. Well, I mean, to me, it's kind of like you said, pure. The connotations of the word pure in our culture, I think, are ironically impure. So, true purity is that which has been tested, that which has been stained, that which has been through, as much as conceivable, I suppose. And then not necessarily that it's lost and regained, but that it's always being tested, And so to me, true love is somehow even relative. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Because I think it could be true then, but then it's like, what makes it true? What makes it true?
Yeah.
Is it time? I would think at that age, it's maybe just time because it is probably pretty pure.
It's a tough one.
Or I don't know, maybe you just want to have sex and it's not pure at all.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, it can go either way. No, I think that's true. I think the question, like, what is true love, is it not so simple, or maybe it's super simple and it's just hard to access what it is these days. But I think that love is like the power of attraction between people is essentially like an expression of love. Sometimes it changes. Like you might feel a romantic power of attraction towards someone, and then over time you realize that it doesn't make sense, you're not compatible, your feelings change, but it doesn't mean that you have to lose the love. The love can sort of change shape into friendship. Maybe that's a lot of what we experience in middle school and high school. Like at one point it was something that felt romantic and then it can morph into something else. But I think you don't have to
about
write
the friend zone.
Well, you don't have to write people off if you break up, basically. Like we don't have to throw each other away if things don't work out. There can still be love between two people and it sort of changes shape into friendship.
Yeah.
So I don't think true love means that you have to commit to that person for your whole life. I think that's the point that I'm making.
Yeah, I agree.
Penn, you going to choose one?
Should we go back to Titanic though? I mean, doesn't everybody, okay, let's be honest. Everyone who listens to this show wants to hear us talk about Titanic.
Let's get into Titanic. I want to hear your answer.
I feel like we've probably spoken about Titanic before.
I think maybe
because
once.
I've said
but
this before.
Not in depth.
Yeah, tell us why you love it.
There is something about the way that it represents love that I think is, we talk about true love, and it's not the sort of love that I think many people get to feel and then have a sustainable relationship from. And neither do they, by the way.
Yeah.
Like at
Spoiler.
all. Aren't they together for like 17 hours? Spoiler. Spoiler. Oh, can you imagine? But I'm just kind of like, you two seem somewhat disinterested, like kind of like dispassionate, sort of detached, like above
I mean, I
Titanic.
love Titanic
and I'm just sort of
too.
curious.
It's just, like, could you have given a more basic answer? So now we want.
Says my best friend's wedding.
You've never even seen it. That's not basic.
We picked the 3 most basic answers.
Yeah, probably.
I think we probably did, if you think about it.
Probably.
Now that eyebrows went up, she was like, speak for your fucking self, sir.
Yeah, no, I loved Titanic. It's complicated because I think we like to glamorize infidelity, but she could have.
Oh, that's right. She's
she
unfaithful.
does cheat. She is unfaithful. The guy
It's
was
Billy Zane at his
She's
worst.
She's engaged to a not great man, but I am not pro infidelity. I will say that. Mm-hmm. But I do love the story.
Hot takes from Nava.
Like Nava ruining everything.
If you are currently cheating or you are participating in an unfaithful relationship, I hope
That
you're
is
not
valid.
offended.
No, I think be offended.
But I've never once thought about the fact that she's unfaithful. Really, I don't. I mean, it's like
isn't that interesting? How many pieces of media there are where there is infidelity and you don't even it does not cross your mind, or you're actually being made to root for that couple.
Oh,
or that
well, I
person.
mean, you
That's
want to talk about
always.
the movie Unfaithful.
Yeah.
Was there ever a relationship I wanted to work more than that one?
I don't know what movie that is.
I mean, you don't know Unfaithful?
Diane Lane, Richard Gere, Spanish actor.
The hottest, like, Richard Gere movie, which is saying a lot.
I don't know it.
Okay.
Do you know who Richard Gere is?
So, like, I know the name. There's like 3 people
Have
I
you
always
seen
get
Pretty Women?
confused. Richard Gere, Sean Connery,
You get them confused.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford and Richard Gere
come
makes
on.
more sense to me than Sean Connery, but because Sean Connery's like 20 years older, I think. But have you seen Pretty Women?
Yeah, probably.
Well, he's the male lead in that. That's
Okay.
his most recognizable role. But
I don't think I've seen it.
wow, that's amazing.
I know. There's a whole bunch of stuff I'm missing out on.
Yeah,
But anyway,
well, you know what? I've not seen Pretty Woman either.
You haven't seen Pretty Woman?
No.
Just
That's
Pretty Woman.
crazy.
is that the one
Yeah.
that's like
Julia Roberts is a working woman.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Sex worker, I guess, is what we would say.
They used to say hooker with a heart of gold, which I think has a certain charm to it. But yeah, you wouldn't say it anymore, I guess.
Penn, what is a ritual that keeps your marriage happy and healthy?
We just like to play. We keep play really present. No, we don't enough these days, and we've been realizing that's really necessary. That was something that we just had our anniversary recently, and
When you say play, besides like play in the bedroom, which is between the couple. What else would you include?
That's the only kind I understand.
My eyes just went, like, whoa. So nonchalant. Play in the bedroom.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any other. Just everything happens in the bedroom. Everything happens in the bedroom. Yeah.
No, I'm actually asking a serious question. Like, without getting into that, what other elements of play sort of can exist between a husband and wife for people struggling to be playful in their marriage?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, I sort of include us in that. Like, we both do it, and it's a challenge. You know, it's a challenge to maintain. Because we also, by the way, we just were talking to this sleep consultant. You know, when you're like trying to figure out how to make the life of a co-sleeping family more manageable, and we found out from this professional, at least from their educated opinion, that we have two of the most difficult ages simultaneously, 3 and 15, because developmentally what's going on is just like, you know, kind of bananas. And I can testify to that. That's what it feels like sometimes. You know, like that dog who's burning in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is fine.
Yeah.
And his eyes are just a little bit askew. That's sometimes I'm like, no, this is fine, right? But why haven't we played in 3 years?
Yeah.
So something we did recently was we literally got a, so basic, but I think it's just kind of a testament to how fun it can be. It's just, we got cards, like playing cards, literally playing cards.
I love that.
Cards. I thought you said cars.
Cars? No, we just got a couple of cars.
Rolly ones on the
Just domino playing with Hot Wheels.
Yeah, we're playing with Hot Wheels. That's pretty charming. Cards, literally cards. And you know what sparked the idea partly was
Esther
Seth Seth and Josh. They spoke about playing, I think it was rummy.
Oh yeah.
Every night with their family, like every night almost.
Yeah.
Sophie's like, yeah. What about it?
No, that's really
that is
sweet.
really sweet.
I really like that. That's actually something that David and I have found when we go and visit his family. Something that is without a doubt always going to be really enjoyable and like a positive experience for everyone is playing a game.
Oh, that's really nice.
And this last
that's
trip,
nice.
It was cards. And yeah, I was just thinking like, so sweet. I love playing cards.
Sophie, what do you and David do to keep what rituals do you have
alive?
that help your marriage stay happy and healthy?
We go on walks a lot. And lately, since having a baby, we've gone on a lot less, and we've just been talking about it. We feel it. Like, it's just such a nice time for us to chat, to catch up, also get in some like physical exercise, and just like
You could
quality
get that in the
time
bedroom.
together.
I don't know. That's where players get their exercise.
Players.
I haven't said that since I was probably 14. Playa.
The thing about having a baby is, and I had heard this before, but it's like a lot of divide and conquer. And so things that we used to do together just for fun, like, let's go grocery shopping. And it's time we also like built in time together.
Now you're doing it alone.
We're losing that. Yeah. So like if David says like, let's go on a walk, I'm like, oh, if you are down to take her on a walk, then I can get some work done while I have this window. So it's trying to balance lately with a baby, trying to balance those moments where you really need time on your own to do stuff, but then also not like sacrificing time together for that. But yeah, walks. So sweet.
That's really sweet.
So we got playing cards and walks. That's going to save no one. That's definitely that's going to help 0 people.
But it sounds like what you're both saying is like time together.
No, these things are valid.
That is not so serious.
Yeah,
time
definitely.
together where you can bond or you can connect on a deeper level. You can focus on each other. That seems really important.
Yeah, and you know what? If you're in a relationship and you don't have kids, which I would think is a huge percentage of people listening, I don't want to make any assumptions, cherish that time that you do have together to play, because if you're trying to get further down the line, you want to have kids, like just out of necessity that will change. And it changes for, something like about 5 years. There's like this period, that is what I understand.
Yeah.
So, cherish that. And look, my household growing up, other relationships, I noticed a downward trend over time. Like, we don't all know how to play. And so it is something that you got to you do have to cultivate it. And sometimes it's just not fun, but you got to do it.
Yeah. How can you tell when you love someone truly? How did you guys figure it out?
Bedroom. All These are, just to be clear, these are not real answers.
A joke.
I mean, I can share a little bit. I'm not married. I'm in a murky phase of my life, but I feel like something that I've been learning is I think it's something real when you can be like fully yourself and you don't have to hide any parts of yourself. And that's like something that I've really struggled with. Like whenever I start to have intense feelings for someone, I like instantly want to hide certain parts of myself, including like the feelings. Like even being able to like express openly how you feel about someone, I think is a marker, even if it takes you time, because we all have different comfort levels with that. So yeah, I feel like something that I'm starting to pay attention to and prioritize, which I didn't before, is like, do I feel safe enough to be myself with this person? Whereas in the past, I really valued feeling nervous. Like to me, that was a huge marker for whether or not someone was worth pursuing, was if I felt nervous around them. That was like, that's how they're different. Now I'm like, oh no, I think that was the wrong marker.
No, that's real. I mean, I think you learn, I've at least learned the most about love in relationships. These ideas that I've had about them before are always, I don't even know what I thought. I really don't remember what I thought. I just knew that it was important. I was definitely a romantic, but you know, I've been in relatively few relationships, literally 4. Outside of that, you know, been with nobody, and that's every single one of them started in a, you know, I wasn't ever consciously going in to them. And then I think in order to turn that into something that could last, that you'd want to found a family on, get married, all that stuff, that was when, you know, my wife and I had to sort of reckon with our lifelong previous behaviors, where we like really weren't pursuing love consciously at all. We were sort of letting it happen. Literally, that was like every cultural message. I mean, Titanic, my goodness, that you just let it, you fall head over heels for him. You don't even think about Billy.
Yeah.
Literally barely a thought. And he's gorgeous, by the way. So like you have to really feel it and fall to not remember Billy, you know. I mean, so it's something that I definitely feel like I'm learning about, as opposed to, I don't know what to say conclusively about it. I very much know that it exists and know that it's important and know that we understand it more.
Yeah, I remember before getting married, having this moment on a call with my dad. I was like in the middle of a breakup from the person I was dating before David, and I was like distraught over that breakup, and I was crying to him on the phone in the middle of a street in Brooklyn. And there was this other person who was pursuing me around that time.
In the middle of the street?
Just chasing
running.
You need to get on the sidewalk. So you need to, this is unsafe.
No. Well, I remember my dad telling me about this breakup. He was like, this was not the person for you. It was too much drama, too tumultuous. It was not the right person. And I was crying because in my head, that meant that the only other option was boring. Yeah. There was this other person who was pursuing me, who was a wonderful person, just like categorically lovely human being, but I just didn't.
Boring.
Yeah.
He wasn't boring, but I wasn't into it. And I felt
bored.
like
you were boring.
I felt like that means there's only these 2 options.
Yeah.
Like either I'm so nervous, like you said, Nava, and that I feel like there's this excitement and spark, but that's wrong. So then the only other option is to be really safe and really bored. And my dad is like, that's not the only other option. There is like a happy medium. And not that you should be bored with the person that you're with. That's not the happy medium, but that you can feel safe and you can feel like joyful and excited about the person that
Safe
you're
and
with.
stimulated.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's something that my mom always says, that you should wait for the pendulum to settle. Like if you're really, really excited about it, then it's probably like, that's not the time to make a decision about somebody, especially like a huge decision, like who you should spend your life with. But that when the pendulum settles and you feel like calm and happy, that's probably a good situation. And yeah.
I also have been thinking, and this is maybe more particular to my old bad habits and patterns, but there's a TikTok that's been making the rounds. It's like different girls doing the voiceover to, if you have a crush on a guy, don't worry about it, spend time with him and it'll go away. But I think that there's like value to that. Like sometimes I think we like obsess over someone or we project something, but we don't really know them.
Oh, totally.
So I also think that that like to love someone truly, like you have to know them. You have to really spend time with them. You have to stop hiding from each other. Like you have to show each other the things that you don't like about yourselves and be comfortable with that, because you're not going to be okay with everyone's shortcomings and you shouldn't be okay with everyone's shortcomings, but you have to be okay with your partner's shortcomings, and your partner has to know yours too to be okay with them. So that's something that I've been learning. Like, oh, I like this person does need to show me like what they're struggling with, their like the darker side, for me to then make a decision. And I think sometimes we just like build it up too quickly, or you just move too fast. Like it takes more than a couple weeks, I think, to really know.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Podcrushed is brought to you by Symbiotica. I started taking Symbiotica because I'm actually in the middle of filming the final season of my show. It's incredibly demanding, physically and mentally. And I kept getting these little sinus infections. I really didn't want to get fully sick. And I got kids at home. Always trying to find time to be with my wife. You know, doing the podcast here. Frankly, I'm burning the candle at both ends, stretched just a little bit thin. I kept getting that little, you know, that nasal drip. Was really scared of getting something much worse. And one time it did. I realized something has to change. And since I'm not going to quit my job or abandon my family, I knew I had to get a little bit healthier. And since taking their products, I've noticed a change in my overall health, my energy levels, my sleep quality too. I'm more confident that I can take whatever my overwrought schedule is going to throw at me. Their products are formulated with the highest quality ingredients out there. You can taste it too. Symbiotica is transparent about how and where they source their ingredients to ensure you get the best products possible. Their formulas don't have any seed oils, preservatives, toxins, artificial additives, or natural flavors. In a time when we are just getting bombarded by inflammatory ingredients like that, it's awesome that Symbiotica is putting in the work to hold up to scrutiny. I take their liposomal vitamin C. By the way, I've never been sure how to say liposomal, but I'm going to go ahead and say that. I take their liposomal vitamin C, which apparently promotes collagen production and boosts immunity. I can definitely feel the immunity. I don't know where I would feel the collagen production, but I don't know. Is that in my face, my lips? Do I look good? You'll be the judge. I also take their magnesium L-threonate. Also not entirely sure how to say that last word, but yeah, the magnesium L-threonate vanilla cream flavor is delicious. They really do taste so good. And like I said, you can immediately taste the quality of their ingredients, and you can feel it too. So I do love them. I take them every day. Feel more energized, alert, and balanced with high-quality supplements that work. Head over to Symbiotica.com and use code PODCRUSHED for 20% off plus free shipping on your subscription order.
Should we talk about first loves here?
Sure.
I mean, that's what we do with our guests.
Yeah.
Why not? Haven't we? Surely we've done that before, no?
We've talked about first crushes, which
Yeah.
I feel like is slightly different.
First love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, all of mine are famous, so I'm going to have to plead the fifth.
What about you, Sophie? First love?
My first love was in high school. And I was like about to tell you his name. His name?
Sven.
No.
Bobby?
Sven. Close. No. Yeah, we dated when I was starting in 10th grade. So like my end of 10th grade. I dated him for 11th and 12th and then a little bit after high school. And I have no bad things to say about him. He's truly like the loveliest, sweetest human. And I think somebody else asked us, like, do you ever keep in touch with your exes from high school? And we did keep in touch loosely, like a couple years after we broke up, and then just, naturally lost touch. And then recently, like maybe a year ago, I reached out to him. I actually had this like reckoning in my life about friendship where a friend of mine, I had reached out to her being like, why did we ever lose touch? Totally had no idea myself. And she was like, you don't remember? She went like, she had a whole experience that I didn't realize about like our friendship breakup sort of. And then I started going through and asking my other friends. Never do this, by the way. Don't ever.
Yeah,
it was really
like setting yourself up
rough.
for some turmoil.
Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah.
But I started reaching out to other friends who like we were still in touch, but it wasn't the same. And I was like, do you feel like I'm a bad friend, or have you felt like I haven't been in touch as much, or that I kind of like haven't made an effort? And it turned out that there were a few people that felt that way, and it led to a lot of introspection. But anyway, it made me reach out to him, and because we had like such a sweet, lovely relationship, and I broke up with him in kind of a cold-hearted way, looking back, and we never really talked about it.
Yeah.
And I was young. I was 19 when we broke up. And anyway, I reached out to him to be like, are you upset still? This is like when I was 27. And we had a really lovely conversation. We exchanged like a bunch of voice notes and cleared the air. He was never upset, actually. But
Exchanging voice notes is probably not a conversation.
I think it is. I mean, it's not a phone call.
Penn has never listened to a voice note, so it's like he has no way to know.
The voice notes to me, that's a whole nother conversation.
No, he hates them. He did accidentally send a voice note to a group chat once. He sent a voice note. We didn't know
It wasn't accidental. No, I was in the car. I had to.
Oh, okay. So it's like, this is insane. I have heard Penn say multiple times, don't send me a voice note. I will not listen.
Yeah, I had to. Well, you know what it is I started using the, what's it called? Dictate function. While driving.
It was an accident. You said you were trying to dictate to text, but it actually ended up being a voice
Yes, but
memo.
I didn't realize. Yeah,
so that's an accident.
But I was trying to send that message that I said.
But not as a
I don't know
voice
if you
note.
noticed. I was speaking in a certain way. I was like, just so you know, there has been an accident on the 90. Yeah.
Anyway, I do, no bad things to say about him. Such a sweetheart.
Penn, you're not going to tell us about your first love, we don't know who she is. I don't think that's public. You don't have to say her name.
No, that's true. So it's
Just getting nervous.
No. So I mean, what's unfortunate, I did have a relationship in my teens that unfortunately I would not call the sort of love. I would not call it a great pain of my upbringing is that this first relationship I would not call my first love. And it was a long relationship. And I've learned a lot about that. And aside...
This sounds like he's dictating.
No. So
as an aside,
you're
trying so hard not to say I know, but it's
well, no. So there's a way to share this, but we're probably going to want to cut this because it's just not the sort of. So you guys know that the first this woman who I was in a relationship with, she died right before we started recording our first episodes from alcoholism, which started when we were together. It was a very dark. It was a very heavy. Like, it's so heavy that actually I didn't even speak about it in my 20s, hardly. So the whole point is that my first love didn't really happen. Like, I think there were a lot of potential. There were a lot of intense feelings with brief encounters that never even were. And then the first time there was anything extended, really, was like this sort of 9-day or 10-day affair I had with this, a girl my age, a woman. I was 20, I think she was 21. Is that right? No, 19. I was 19. And that was really cool, and it was very much shared. It was very much mutual. But then she ghosted me because she had a relationship back in where she was from. And I think maybe a year later it was understood and we reconnected and whatever. But then I think my first like real sustainable, what I would call first true love, was the first significant relationship in my 20s. And you know, and that's, so I was older by the time I would say that I had a true love.
Yeah. I think this is a good segue to how do you deal with heartbreak? So when those relationships didn't work out, how did you deal with heartbreak?
I'm
probably the best equipped to answer this because I've but yeah. You, Penn.
Part of me has always been excited during a breakup because I at least know like, well, this is the way forward because this is clearly not working out, right? I've never had a breakup that was like not mutual, really. I've also never seriously pursued someone. It's always been very mutual, my experiences, for whatever reason. So, you know, the heartbreak has been, for me, it's always been an opportunity to like, you know, there's a Rumi quote in Arabic, I'll say it in Urdu, actually. No. It's something like God enters through the wound.
The light enters. The wound is the place where the light enters. Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. And that's a universal like platitude we all know, but it's a truth. And so for me, it's always been an opportunity to grow seriously, to like really. I always would engage in a path of spiritual search after, you know, and that would eventually lead me to the Baha'i faith and meet you too.
Meet you too. Were you just talking to Nava at first?
No, I said you two. I said you two very close
he
together.
Did, Sophie.
Like the band.
You did.
I did.
You're inventing
totally
that
did.
comma.
How do I deal with heartbreak? Well,
how did you? Yeah.
Not great. I don't have any advice to give. I think what I did a lot of the time was just the way I dealt with it was move on to the next person, honestly, which is not a healthy, I don't think it's necessarily healthy. But
it is good to not get stuck. There's something to that.
Yeah. Well, but I think ideally you don't have to be in another, you don't have to be pursuing someone else or entertaining the idea of another relationship in order to be okay and to move on. But I feel like pretty much each time that's what happened.
Yeah. I have a lengthy answer to this. I'm going to borrow from Matthew Hussey because I am a fan and I've like done some of his stuff. I think that the key to moving through heartbreak, I think there's like two parts. One is, well, actually there's so many parts, but one is like you can avoid a lot of heartbreak by how you enter a relationship or how you enter the pursuit. Like if you can, I think, be honest, have difficult conversations early on, I think you can avoid a lot of the ambiguity and murkiness that contributes to a certain kind of heartbreak, which is the kind that I've experienced more. I've been in a few relationships, very few, and I've broken up each time. But I have experienced like rejection or like, you know, unreciprocated feelings. So that's what most of my heartbreak has been. From an ended relationship, I've never felt heartbreak in the aftermath. Apologies to those gentlemen. But it just felt like it was the right choice.
Yeah.
But so for the kind of like heartbreak that I've experienced, that I'm sure some of you have as well, where it's like it's unreciprocated or you feel like you're not enough because someone doesn't choose you. I think that you can avoid a lot of that if you're just like really honest in how you're approaching things and you don't let things be ambiguous for too long. But let's say you've gotten to that point, or you really care about someone and it doesn't work out. I think the key is both to feel what you're feeling, like allow that emotion to visit you and not try to like brush it away or sweep it under the carpet, but don't get stuck in it. Like keep moving and think about like, if I'm feeling lonely, I don't have to be with this person to alleviate my loneliness. Let me reach out to like my community. Let me reach out to my family, my friends. If I'm feeling like I'm confused about love, let me read some, like, let me ask people that I trust to like recommend texts to me. Or I feel like there are other things that you can do to kind of nurture because the feeling is usually attached to other needs that we have or other like related emotions. But for me, I will say like it had been about 5 years before I'd really felt any kind of heartbreak in the last 5 years. And then this summer, there was someone that I was getting to know and I sort of quickly developed a bond with him. And I did feel a degree of heartbreak when he made a different choice. But I was able to move through it pretty quickly. Definitely the fastest that I've ever gotten over a situation like that. And honestly, what helped me was dance classes. I basically I had a dance class that I would take once a week that brought me a lot of joy. I'm not good enough at dance to like drift. If I'm not paying attention, I'll get lost and I feel embarrassed. So for like an hour a week, my mind was just focused on dance. So I started tripling the number of dance classes. I go like 3 or 4 times a week. And just to have like 3 or 4 hours a week where my mind was like focused on one thing really intensely truly was healing. Like it really, I honestly believe helped me get over the situation. To just be like to physically focus on movement helped me mentally and emotionally also focus on movement. And to have the habit of mind of like, if my mind starts to drift to this person, don't indulge it. Don't look at his social media. Like, don't reread the text. Just like move forward. And that really helped me. And that's the fastest that I've ever gotten over someone.
Yes. I just to speak to that, I was going to say one time that I did something that really helped was throw myself into something creative. I remember I was going through a heartbreak that was really rough in like when I was 20 or something. And I made a stop motion and it took me it was a similar situation. I couldn't think about anything else. It took all day for several days. It was like totally time consuming and the heartbreak was just kind of like fertilizer for something creative. And so it felt like there was something positive coming out of it. So yeah, I think throw yourself into something creative is a really helpful thing.
That's actually, you know what, the one time I was, I think, most significantly heartbroken, I made a record.
Yeah. Use it for art. Use it.
It's true. Use it.
Use it. Make money. Get famous.
Okay, this is, sorry, I keep asking, but I'll ask one more because it kind of relates to what we were just talking about. How has your definition of love changed over time based on your experiences? I'll just kick us off. I had already shared this, like being safe, like not taking nervousness as a barometer, all of those things. But I also think something that I've been reflecting on this year and thinking about movement and like also feeling your emotions, but not letting them, like not dwelling on them. There's this poem by Rumi. It's called The Guest House. It's really famous. A lot of you probably know it, but I'm going to read it and then just say that I have read this poem many times, but I have a really different relationship to it this year. So the poem says, this is a translation, of course. It says, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond." And the reason that I'm sharing that is like how my definition of love has changed is I think to be less attached to my emotions and also not to be ashamed of them. So to know like if I'm feeling intensely for someone, that's a feeling, that's a visitor. That intensity, even if you end up with that person, the intensity will change. So I think like what you're looking for in a partner isn't emotions necessarily, but like really character. Like, am I down with this person's character? Like, are we compatible? And to like just really be detached from like, do I feel excited? Do I feel lust? Do I feel love? I used to really focus on the feelings and not the reality. So trying to focus more on the reality rather than the feelings, which come and go and they're temporary visitors, but also to like welcome them when they come. Like this visitor is here for a reason. So like, why is this visitor here? Why am I feeling jealousy in this moment? What can I learn from that? Why am I feeling loneliness? Why am I feeling intense love? So yeah, that's sort of how I've been thinking about it a lot, like to just be really detached and more humble before my own emotions and not get like, I'm going to hold on to this one and build a fantasy around this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll take it from here. Yeah. My definition of love probably couldn't have changed more since I was younger. I mean, it's hard to recall exactly what I thought, but I know that I thought it was just those feelings that you were talking about. And I was like remembering from that perspective, what would I have even thought if you're saying it's not, the feelings are not the reality, like try to understand the reality. What does that even mean? I mean, I'm saying that as a genuine question and not trying to like, spar with you. It's it's a hard thing to know what we're really talking about when we talk about love because, and this is where I'm just going to, completely unveil it, take the gloves off. For me, it's our faith. We're all Baha'is, but I'll just speak about my experience as a Baha'i, a person who came to this this framework where I see the world as not just a spiritual experience or a spiritual enterprise, but there is a profound meaning to life that is knowable. We do come from an origin which is a source of love with a capital L that is so unknowable, but is experienced in these like glimpses and degrees. And love is like this quality that is like the sun in a way. It's so great that you have to be about 93 million miles away from it and like turning around constantly so that you don't get burnt by its power. But then, of course, saying that is just, I don't know, it can sound like a bunch of vague nonsense. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of nonsense about love out there. And I think that it's becoming an increasingly nonsensical idea in a world that is struggling to find it, in a world that is struggling to know it. And I don't have a framework for believing in love outside of believing in God, outside of believing in like that there is a purpose and meaning and arc and inevitability to like the goodness of life, that if you think you somehow don't experience in this one, you experience it in the next one. I'm just in a phase of life where it's like I don't know how to talk about it on any other terms, frankly. If it comes down to anything simple and practical, it's like that it is cultivated, it is chosen, it is built and understood. It doesn't just happen.
Yeah.
That basic thing is like believing that it just happens, which is saying it's like total chance and like luck or something. And random and arbitrary. And therefore, by the way, meaningless. It can't possibly have meaning if it's just those things, because then it just flits away randomly. So to me, it's like it's like a total paradigm shift to really believe in love as something that is valid and relevant and powerful. Like I guess what I'm trying to say also is that I understand where people think that it's like probably a lot of young men probably question like, what the hell are people even talking about? How is that relevant to my life? Like what is love? Is a huge question, actually. It's funny. It really is. It gets at these like ontological, like, what are we doing here? Why are we here? What is the purpose of life? Like, Sophie, go ahead.
Can I just add one thing before it? Just because you pointed this out, Penn, of like, well, what does it mean to focus on reality instead of the feelings? And I had like briefly alluded to Matthew Hussey's work, but this is sort of what I found really helpful. And crazy that I only found it through him. Like we should be socializing these ideas more and more. I mean, my own stupidity for not coming to this by myself, but sort of this idea that like so dumb. But this idea that like it's not real unless you're both building it together. You can't have one person building a house that's like if the relationship is the house, you can't have one person building it. Like that has to be a team effort. Yeah. So like you both have to be building it. You both have to be committed to it. You have to have a shared vision of what this house is going to be. So I think the reality is like two people who have a vision and are committed to carrying it out and are committed enough to the relationship or the marriage, the thing that you build together that like, there are going to be difficult periods. They might even last years. And like, you're still committed enough that like, you're going to weather that and you're going to be as like kind to each other and courteous. And, you're going to bring the right qualities to the table to weather those storms. But yeah, I think love is tested and it's like, it's a mutual commitment. It's not just excitement. It's not mutual excitement. It has to go much, much further beyond that. Yeah.
It's conscious. And I just feel like we live in a culture where love is considered unconscious. And that the reason I brought up faith and God and all this stuff is because I think we also live in a culture that thinks of reality as unconscious. And if you have faith, or, as I understand it, you believe that reality is conscious. So there's a difference. There is a difference, actually. And I think that, and I think that we should follow the logic of our given frameworks. And if we really are pursuing one where we don't believe that there is any kind of purpose or meaning to life. Love is an imaginary creation that might be irrelevant and a waste of time. So to me, it's a big, 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 big question. Again, Sophie, please go.
Yeah.
A friend recently asked me, like, how do you know, she's in a relationship and she's like, but how do you know when you should just like take the leap and it's like the person for you? And I was realizing actually there's like a sweet spot between, like, in that period of getting to know somebody, you want to really be thoroughly acquainted with who they are and like all their quirks, all their shortcomings, and the really beautiful strengths that they have. You want to become acquainted with all of that. You don't want to rush into it. But at the same time, there is, you know, in the Baha'i faith, there's this idea that marriage is a fortress for well-being.
Yeah.
And people are going to annoy you.
Yeah.
They're going to annoy you. You're going to find things that irk you about them.
So find someone that doesn't annoy you. Is that what you're saying?
if you spend too long in the process of like, well, is this perfect? Is this really like, I know this isn't a question about marriage, but
but
that's
I think
my
it could
context
be.
for it.
Yeah.
Then you're never going to settle on, you're never going to enter into that fortress for well-being. You're never going to be able to experience the like security that comes with that. Because when you do enter into it and you inevitably find things that annoy you about that person, you're committed and you're I think you were speaking to this, like you're going to weather that storm. But if you're not, then it's easy to just be like, well, they didn't meet all of the criteria. So as long as there's like these fundamental values are aligned, I think just go for it is like something I've been thinking about recently.
Yeah.
And then how has my view of love changed? I think I used to think it was something totally separate from friendship, and now I don't. I think it's like friendship on steroids. Yeah. Yeah.
Friends with benefits.
Exactly.
Penn keeps bringing it back to the bedroom. Just
Play us.
What other paradigm is there?
Yeah. Stick around. We'll be right back.
When people want to relax, I think maybe some of them might go online shopping, right? That's pretty common. Maybe you look at homes that you're not going to buy. My wife definitely fits in that category, along with many of our dear friends. Might I suggest a change? Try taking a scroll through Viator. I have to say it's really engaging. You can fantasize about travel, and maybe you could just book one. Viator is the perfect tool to ensure you plan and experience the best trip possible. With Viator, you can easily explore and book over 300,000 travel experiences around the world. So whether you're into history or adventure, or just looking for something unique, Viator has something for everyone. Whenever friends come to visit me in New York City, I know they feel a little overwhelmed by all the sights to see. I do too. And I mean, I rarely see any of those things myself living here. I'm never sure what to tell them. But Viator makes it very simple. And they even let you see other user reviews too. So like right now in New York, you can book an Ellis Island tour, an architectural yacht tour, or I like this one, a Greenwich Village food tour. As a New Yorker, I got to recommend that because the Village is where it's at if you want to have those most iconic city strolls. Also, they offer free cancellation to help you plan for the unexpected. Viator's 24/7 customer service is awesome too. Traveling can be full of surprises, and it's comforting to know that support is available anytime, day or night. Download the Viator app now to use code Viator10 for 10% off your first booking in the app. Find travel experiences for you. Do more with Viator.
So I mentioned that I broke up with my first love in like a sort of cold-hearted way.
In a mosque? No. Oh, sorry.
It was at a time when I was really coming to terms with my own religion, my relationship to my religion, my own relationship to faith. And I just decided, it was a very like young and dumb thought, but I just decided like, you know, we're too different. He wasn't religious. He didn't believe in God. And I just felt like there's no way we can work it out. And I sort of just ended it one day. Like a long-term 2.5-year relationship. I was just like, it's not going to happen. And I regretted that later on, not because I think I should have stayed in the relationship, but just like the manner in which I did it. And I think there are people who've found ways to reconcile differences in faith and religion with their spouse or with their long-term partner. That's a question that a bunch of people asked us. how do you navigate a relationship where you have a different religion or different relationship to religion? And one specific question that they asked actually was, how do you reconcile differences in relationship to faith with the person you're in a relationship with? The other was, if you're curious about a different religion or spiritual practice that your spouse isn't, how do you go about exploring that?
It's not ever easy. I think even if you have the same faith, I think if you have the same faith, you might be kidding yourself to think that it's, that's like kind of, then we got that.
Yeah, you actually go on a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, because we're talking about your relationship to what you think, what the hell we're doing here on planet Earth. Whether that's a big question or a little question to you, that matters. And it has to be something similar to your partner. It has to be. Mm-hmm. You have to think we're here for some kind of similar reason, or that it's agreeable that we're not here for a reason. I think people who really feel like opposite ends of that spectrum, that to me is like, that's incompatible. I don't know how anybody could. I really don't know how anybody could bridge that gap for very long. Yeah. If you really, because I think it has to be about investigating reality for yourself. Like I'm also not a person who's ever been passively religious. Mm. Like, if there was such a thing as Orthodox Baha'i, I'd be one.
Penn would be the leader. He would be our priest.
And when I was pursuing what I thought was the truth in psychedelics, I pursued that hard. And when I thought it was all about just being in love and in a relationship, I pursued that hard.
Yeah.
When I thought it was all about making that money, I wasn't succeeding.
For some weird,
I was really poor.
One. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you have your things in a garbage bag? Is that what Dom told us?
Yeah.
I did, but I had some money then. That wasn't a related
that was an aesthetic
to
choice.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts on this. I've been thinking about this. This year I've been dating the most that I've ever dated. That's why Penn keeps telling me I'm a slut.
She's in her hoe era. I don't think I used the word slut.
No, you did. You said, welcome to your slutty era.
Okay, I did it once and over a text.
Yeah, you did it once.
That word, I gotta say, makes me uncomfortable.
Okay.
You can use it.
He didn't dictate that one.
I can't.
I will just say, I don't know anyone an explanation, but I will just say, just because I wanted to be out there, that when I date multiple people, I'm not physically intimate with them. That's like something that would make me really uncomfortable to do with multiple people. So anyway, but as I'm like getting to know multiple people this year, everyone that I've gotten to know has been agnostic. Which is the first time that I've ever gotten to know someone who wasn't religious. I've gotten to know Christians and Baha'is, namely. And prior to this year, I always thought that a shared love of God would be super important to my relationship, whether or not we were the same faith. And I'm still like working through my feelings about whether or not that is important to have this like shared love of God. But I actually reached out to a friend of mine who married a Baha'i. He is a Baha'i now, but for 10 years, the first 10 years of his marriage and the first like 5 years of the relationship before they got married wasn't. And I asked him like what was helpful in how your wife approached your differences and like what wasn't helpful. And anyway, he sent me a long response, but there's part of it that I wanted to read because I think it applies to other things besides religion, and it was really helpful. He said, entering into a relationship hoping that he will change is not going to work. Even if he changes, he's not going to do it on your timetable. If you're into him, you need to be all in. You're on your spiritual journey and he's on his. If you can help each other on your journeys, that's amazing. But that doesn't mean that you're going to put a stake on where you need him to end up to be with him. This will definitely backfire. His journey is not a reflection on you if you date him. You need to trust that he's doing what he needs to do to authentically investigate truth. And I thought that was really helpful and really like directly answered something that I was struggling with. But the thing that I'm still trying to figure out that I think is important to me is that the person would respect my point of view. Like if he thinks that what I believe is superstition and wouldn't see like the Baha'i writings as a legitimate resource to make decisions, because I turn to them sort of to consult like what do the Baha'i writings say on certain things. If he would disregard it and say that's superstition, we're only going to go based on like what psychology says or science, I think it wouldn't work between us, because that is how I make decisions. And that's like in a marriage, like I'm going to continue to make decisions with this person. So we have to be compatible in how we consult about making decisions. And that's something that I haven't been able to answer yet, that question. But
that actually makes me think that like we live in an era where like people constantly pathologize one another, even if you're the same, you know, whether it's you're talking about religion or you're just talking about like, I don't know, a mentality. And I think that like something at the crux of what you're saying or what we're talking about occurs to me is that there's a respect and curiosity about the other's opinion, and that you're not seeking to either convert or pathologize, you know? And so for that reason, I actually would think that people with evidently, you know, if it's like a Christian and Jew and Muslim, whatever, like that's all, as long as you believe in, you know, God, and then there's like a prophet, I would imagine that all like helps a lot. But it feels to me like I think it would be hard, you know, with like really divergent views. I think
if you don't respect the way that somebody thinks, you will run into all sorts of problems down the road because you can discount anything that they say. You know, you have to respect the way their mind works and the way they come to decisions. Yeah. In order, and
furthermore, to be interested in it, I think too. Strong note to go out on. What a banger.
People have tuned out by now. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, definitely. There are 3X now.
Yeah. This is just therapy. It's really helpful. I love you guys.
Oh, I love you too.
He's not going to say it.
You too, Penn.
No,
say it back.
We need to hear it.
I love you both.
Aww. Are you telling the truth?
You can't second guess. That's not love. That's bullshit. I was just cornered. I was gaslit.
Penn, why did you say I love you both?
We can cut that down to 40 minutes probably.